Welcome to the Wired for Wellbeing podcast, where we explore how understanding your nervous system can transform the way you live, love, and relate. Now, Valentine's Day is coming up, and I wore red for the occasion. And if you're looking forward to it, this episode will help you deepen the connection that you already have. And if you're dreading it, or you have mixed feelings about intimacy altogether, this episode will help you understand what might be going on behind the scenes in your nervous system and what you can begin to do about it. My name is Steve. I'm your intrepid producer and host for this series, and each week I'm joined by Dr. Jeffrey Rutstein. Hi, Jeffrey. How are you? And do you have any plans for Valentine's Day?
Hi, Steve. I'm well, thanks. Not yet. We're trying to think about what we'd like to do. Usually it's staying at home and making a nice dinner. How about you?
We do the same exact thing. We usually make time to cook a dinner that we wouldn't normally cook on a regular night and spend a little bit more time connecting in the kitchen and eating yummy food. So we'll probably have very similar experiences. Now, friends, one of the things we do here in this series is answer questions from you if you have them. So if you'd like to leave a question, we're going to put all of that information in the show notes. I also really early on want to point people to where you can learn a little bit more about what's going on behind the scenes here in the nervous system. We have an episode just focused on that. It's called What's Controlling You Without You Knowing It. If you want some more information about some of the things we're talking about today, that's usually where we point people. Okay, so Jeffrey, let's jump in. I know you have a broad definition of love, so maybe we can start there as a framing for this episode.
It's a word that has so many different meanings and poles for people. From a young age, many of us are enculturated and supported by family or by religious institutions to have an idealized form of relationship, an idealized form of love. I'll find my perfect other, my soulmate, and then I will be completed. I will be happy. I will be whole, and I won't lack or need anything else. And as most adults quickly find out, relationship is not that simple and not necessarily that curative. Matter of fact, for many of us, relationships both provide us with opportunities to get incredible bounty and wealth in terms of depth, connection, love, history, building future dreams, having a family, or sharing a work calling, whatever it is. But just as often, relationships can be the source of stress or disconnection, especially when we don't examine what our ideas of love are. Because love is such a broad topic, I want to sort of simplify it a little bit for today. And Steve and I talked about this because we felt like love is important around Valentine's Day, because for a lot of people in our world, it's celebrated as a day of romance. And again, that can be wonderful news if you're in either a new relationship or a relationship where you feel close and connected and where it warms your hearts to think of Valentine's Day. But we're also mindful of our listeners who have mixed emotions, that maybe they're celebrating Valentine's Day without their partner because their partner passed away or the relationship is no longer connected. Or for people who are in troubled relationships or abusive relationships or what may feel like loveless relationships. So what we wanted to do is also offer, I guess, a territory today of how people can both go deeper in their own capacity for love, for themselves and for others, and show how there's another way of approaching love, looking at it through intimacy and connection, that really can change how you relate to the word and bring it to life in your relationships.
I think that's a good frame, because we were really cautious about making sure that this was for everybody, knowing that people have different experiences, and even those experiences change over time. I definitely responded to what you shared, Jeffrey, that you have this expectation of love. And I think as a younger man, I thought I'd find my one true love and that would be it. And then a couple of years later, we got divorced, went through that experience. So yes, this day and this time and this idea can hold a lot for a lot of people.
Yes.
We've talked we've talked before about this idea of like people having different set points for things. And I'm wondering if maybe we could transition there of just understanding maybe different people's systems having different set points to access this spectrum that we're talking about.
So all of us have different set points in terms of our comfort or discomfort in building bridges, for example. Some of us are really comfortable reaching out to others, starting a relationship, being the first person to say hi or introduce yourself. For some people, meeting others or having a light, superficial conversation is very easy and graceful for them. And connection doesn't present a huge problem for them, perhaps. Versus others who are very shy or perhaps have lots of doubt, self-doubt, or perhaps feel inferior or ashamed in some ways, as many, many trauma survivors do. And so they anticipate not being met with welcome, but being met with rejection. And so for folks who have more of that kind of experience, the building a bridge, the finding a way to relate and connect to people is more challenging. And so sometimes, by the way, if you're in that it's hard for you to build a bridge, you may be more limited in the people you form relationships with by who chooses you, right? And that you may feel like it's really hard to decide if someone's going to like you and you don't want to feel rejection if they don't. So it may feel more comfortable for you to have someone pursue you and you can like them. But again, the issue with this, not that that's bad, but the issue with this is that you're not necessarily being an active participant in the relationships you're calling into your life. You're sort of at the disposal of who both finds you attractive and who has the comfort or safety or entitlement to lean into meeting you.
Yeah, it makes me want to now look a little bit at talking to the individuals who this time frame, this idea, these connections are difficult. So I'm wondering what we might offer them and help them understand maybe what's going on in their nervous systems or in their experiences that might be creating some of these feelings, and maybe some things to look at that might be helpful for them.
Okay. So, first of all, one of the first human responses to feeling that frustration about having difficulty or feeling shy is that our minds will label that as a fault or flaw of our own. Instead of seeing it as a nervous system response, which it actually is, we label it instead some weakness, deficit, or brokenness in us. A further sign that, of course, no one's going to want to relate to us because, look, I can't even feel comfortable having conversation. I don't know any adults that can't do that. And of course, there's millions of adults who can't do that. But this set point inside is sort of keeping them back. It's the nervous system not feeling safe. And the safety comes in connection. So if we step to a wider funnel for a second or look, from birth, we are all wired for connection. Our nervous system seeks connection, safe connection with others, that we get a tremendous amount of settling and nourishment and healing and well-being from vital relationships where we can feel close, connected, where there's ample feelings of warmth and affection, a strong sense of bonding. This gives us a wealth of things that our nervous systems and physical bodies crave, whether it's in romantic relationships or not, but especially in our more important primary relationships, whether you're mono or polyamorous. The idea is that we seek something in our special partner or partners that really seek to fulfill us and complement us. But the difficulties get way intensified if you've had rejection experiences in the past. Maybe married someone and had the marriage go totally wrong and then doubt that you can trust yourself ever again in picking a safe partner. Or maybe you grew up in a family that was abusive or dependent on substances, or where relationships were much more fraught with betrayal and violence than with safety, love, and connection. In any case, For people who are shy, for people who have a hard time leaning into newer or creating and nourishing newer connections, that's not a deficit, but that is actually a safety valve that's trying to protect them, a safety mechanism. It keeps you a little less connected, so you're a little bit more safe. I guess this is where shame comes into. Shame is the great ability to discourage us from anything that would help us feel better by talking us out of doing it. Oh, you shouldn't do that. Oh, why reach out? They're going to reject you, or you don't look good right now, or you don't have anything to say, or what happens if they ask you these questions? How are you going to answer them? It's better not to even do this in the first place. And we'll talk ourselves right out of thinking about doing something that could help us feel better. And ultimately, that maintains the pattern. It's not our fault and it's not our conscious decision. This is being driven by the nervous system.
So I'm wondering if we can go a layer deeper and talk to our friends who might be experiencing a degree of trauma or identifying as having trauma, that the layer that adds into what you just shared.
So if our actual histories include experiences of relationship betrayal, and any time that we need a caregiver, parent, family member, other, and they not only disappoint us, but harm us, and it could be harming by neglect, or it could be harming by intentional and active abuse or violence or inflicting of pain, that this completely scrambles our sense of self-worth, of whether we're deserving for love, of whether we'll ever be enough. If my own parents or parent treated me this way, how will anyone ever, ever see that I'm worthy enough unless I pull the wool over their eyes or hide what are my inherent shameful deficits? And I think that trauma makes us afraid of the pain in relationships. It doesn't stop us craving them and wanting them. But it may also mean that when we do get into relationships, we're afraid of being ourselves. So to maintain relationships, some people who've had very adverse backgrounds will feel like they need to be agreeable, the good partner, whatever that means in their minds, or whatever they imagine it to be in their partner's mind. And sort of always auditioning and performing to become or prove themselves to be, to the other's satisfaction, the best partner. But it doesn't mean you're being authentic with your own limitations or energy, or I'm sick of doing this, or I've had a bad day myself today. It can mean that when people are in relationships, they don't show up fully as themselves sometimes because they're afraid that that could push the other away. So they're in a relationship, but these earlier experiences are preventing their nervous system from feeling that it's safe to be fully connected and seen. Now, to me, the trajectory of adults, the deeper, further reaches of maturation include the ability to truly be comfortable in where we are in our human journey, and to be able to feel safe enough in relationship to express who we are, and to be able to welcome and receive our partner's expression of themselves. So many of us feel like, no, you can't have another view that I don't have. If I'm Republican, you can't be Democrat. If I'm all for spicy food and you hate it, that can't be. We have to meet at the same place. And so true freedom and true maturity is the ability to sort of really be able to embrace our partner as a separate individual that we're also in relationship with and sort of becoming a oneness with them at times. And at the same time, being able to also hold on to and be our own self. Sort of maintaining connection and intimacy with our experience while we are growing connection and intimacy with a partner or a significant other.
Now, in a little bit, I want to transition and talk to the other side of the coin of people who are maybe not feeling as apprehensive right now and how they can deepen intimacy and connection. But before we do that, I want to hear from you some ways that the individuals on this side of the coin that we've been talking about who maybe are a little bit more activated or triggered or dysregulated during this time, what might they do to start to regulate, to maybe build their capacity for connection as well?
Well, I would say the first thing is to be very aware and awake to the potential intrusion of shaming and judgmental thoughts. If we're disturbed about a holiday, for whatever reason, almost always we will find a way to blame ourselves. Some of us are lucky enough to blame the holiday. I hate this commercialized holiday, and that's fine. That creates a boundary. But for many of us, it just emphasizes this feeling of we're outside. We're on the outside.
So some of those feelings of like, I'm unlovable, or I'm not worthy, or they're just going to hate me anyway, or I'm so pissed off at this person. Maybe that's different. Maybe that's actually different. But
right. That piece
some
is
of the examples, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to.
anticipating that they're not going to be met with welcome, that they're going to be met with rejection. I speak with clients and students at times about, when you're in an interview, whether it's for a job or a friend or a friendship or someone you're dating, it's really important to not be there to pass the interview, but also to be kind of a mindful participant in the exchange in terms of finding out for yourself, what do you need to know about this job, right? Most of us are so intent on selling ourselves, please accept me, that we don't always look at who or what am I begging to accept me right now? Like, we just feel like this need to, if anyone accepts me, I'm better than not, right? And that's coming from a part of us that feels broken or not enough, right? It's sort of going to our lowest denominator. So our expectations get lowered. We don't really expect someone to love us. We might hope for it. There was a phrase that came to mind a few minutes ago. Harville Hendricks, a therapist and a writer, wrote a book called Finding the Love You Deserve. No, excuse me, Finding the Love You Want. We all know the kind of love we want. But why is it that often we get the love we end up deserving, which is usually a far cry from the love we want? All right. Now, again, I'm not talking about a partner relationship needs to be perfect, but the idea is that in my first marriage, which I was in for over 20 years, took a long time for me to actually value what was not alive and thriving in the relationship, and not to just blame it on me, and not just to say, well, I'm being sensitive or there's something wrong with me, but to actually take seriously and value what I had just never really looked at before, which is my own reaction, my own participation in the flow of the relationship. It felt like automatically I had somehow settled. And I don't mean anything against my ex-spouse. Perfectly fine person. Perfectly fine. Just not the best match for my nervous system. But it took me a long time to believe that that was important enough to be on the table too.
What was it that allowed you to finally feel that way?
Despair. I actually found myself in a period of despair, getting quite depressed. Like you, when I got married, I intended to be married for life. We have children. I didn't want to hurt my children. I didn't want to hurt my ex-wife, who was my wife at the time. I didn't want to create pain, but it really felt at that point when I finally did leave, like it truly became unlivable to continue in that situation with her and how I was feeling in the relationship. And that was at least half me, but it really took dropping to a level of pain where for many of us, we sometimes only are able to hear ourselves when other defenses are stripped away, when we get so much in pain. or when we're so in grief that all our usual ways of defending ourselves from feeling or really expanding how we think about things, they get ripped away. And when we get raw like that, sometimes we can see the truth with much less fear. We can just see it for what it is. And I knew that my well-being was going to be dependent on me leaving. And that was a hard decision to come to, especially with my background, that with someone who loves you and attaches to you, you should, be loyal to them the rest of your life just because of that.
Now, my questions have kind of taken us down a little bit of a rabbit hole that I find interesting. I hope others have as well. But I want to come back to the individuals who might be apprehensive and just see if there's anything else that you wanted to offer or needed to share about how they might start to build
Yes.
build their capacity for connection, to kind of come back to that idea.
Right. So I really believe that one of the best things we can do to set ourselves up for success in all relationships is pay more attention to our nervous system, not in an obsessive or restrictive way, but just in a way of noticing, can we help ourselves feel a little safer and settled? Because if you can do that, you have the ability to regulate a little bit. And when we're in regulation, we have a much better ability to determine the match between us and someone else. Versus if we're more activated in fight or flight, I'm on an interview. I hope they pass me and want to have a second coffee with me. I'm up here and I'm, dancing and singing to try to pass the review, to pass the audition. Instead of being a little down here and saying, how does it actually feel like to have coffee with this person? How does my nervous system feel? Do I feel welcome? Are we feeling connected? Is there some warmth here? Is there a spark here? Or am I working too hard and too anxious to even be in my body and notice? I just hope I don't get rejected. So a lot of us who have negative experiences in relationships will usually enter that dancing and singing phase instead of that sensing phase. So one of the things we can do from the beginning is first learn a little bit about how we can befriend ourselves by increasing our ability to self-regulate and increasing our capacity for self-compassion, which is what actually changes the entire dance. Because the part of me, younger boy, wanting the perfect partner was so that I could be perfect, I could be whole, right? Once we let go of that fantasy of needing to be perfect, us or the other person, we're allowed to actually feel into what's possible. What's really possible here? And we only can actually feel that when we're heart connected with the other person and we're kind of regulated. And so this takes a little safety, being comfortable, being a little regulated and connected and intimate with yourself. And self-compassion is a way of developing a kind ability to be intimate and to see with soft eyes instead of harsh eyes and a tense attitude towards ourselves, squinting at, oh, why did you do that? Oh, that's stupid, or you shouldn't have felt that way. And instead, just being able to be a kind witness and say, wow, that must have hurt. That must have been difficult. Or it's curious that you reacted that way. Something must have frightened you. Looking at it from compassion allows us to breathe and to make a connection and to actually be in relationship with ourselves. And that's the road, that's the path towards being able to be in a better place to form relationships that are deeper, more safely connected, and where you can feel truly safe to be you and safe to receive the other person.
So I find it fascinating that the path to building our capacity for love in that scenario is increasing our capacity for self-compassion.
Yes.
I wouldn't have gone there. I wouldn't have pulled that together. It makes sense, but I wouldn't have made that connection that I need to love myself and respect myself. And from that, I get a different perspective and a different awareness and a different gentleness.
I wouldn't have known that unless I experienced it.
What was your experience of it?
When I was younger, I wanted to be a good boyfriend. So I'd have a model of what a good boyfriend looked like, and I try to be that way and feel that way. Except this model of good boyfriend never got angry or pissed off or jealous. And so here I am trying to live up to this mental or cultural or fantasized model of how I should be. and being miserable at it. And then finding when I got angry or jealous, like it felt so separate from how I was allowed to be that it became this very compartmentalized and then occasionally kind of just coming out in the open, reactive kind of upset, angry self.
I notice the times that I get reactive in my relationship, and it happens, I'm human, are the times that I haven't had my needs met and I haven't advocated for my needs. I notice those aren't all the times, obviously, but those are definitely times where I get asked something and I don't say, like, well, no, because I need to focus on this, or how about in 10 minutes? I'm like, oh, there she goes again, doing this thing that she always does. And instead of me having the compassion for myself to say, you know what, actually, it's really important to me that I finish this task. And I notice when I do that, when I can say, hey, I need 5 minutes, I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to give you all my attention. Because I think a good husband is supposed to be available and be there and be responsive and all of that. But it's just interesting that as you were sharing, I was noticing that that connection in my experience.
Yeah. I mean, so you're pointing out too something about when you and your partner get into struggle and stress. Part of it is your own nervous system having a reaction. Not that there's something wrong in and of her saying, hey, Steve, could you do this? But your nervous system feels that somehow that becomes an instantaneous demand, felt, not necessarily registered in your head, but felt, and then it can create stories. There she goes again. Selfish, always demanding this. I'm suffocating, I'm getting squished. And then there's that part of you that was able to look at that and also recognize that part of this was information. You're getting irritated. It's not really about Wendy. It was about the feeling that your automatic nervous system response is to subdue what your agenda is and to immediately satisfy the people you love, which is, again, wonderful in terms of your efforts to really want to please the person you're with are beautiful, and absolutely the route to resentment, because yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do this. Damn it. And at some point that would rise in distance, in breaking of connection. And when you can see it instead as this dance of something trying to be known, and then could hear that, it didn't become between you and Wendy anymore. It more became between you and you, not being controlled by this automatic drive of the nervous system to jump into hyper flight mode and get something ready, right? And also makes you closer to the fight mode, the anger at her for making you jump up into this, right? So I think that this is kind of a lifelong journey of finding out how to be in relationship in ways that really benefit us both. And I just want to go back to self-compassion for a moment. One of the things that I notice about self-compassion from practicing it, and that's really the key here, cultivating and accessing this ability to be kind, warm, and welcoming to what you experience, allows me to accept within my humanity all the stuff I had to reject, like a need for attention or anger or feeling ashamed or feeling petty. All those things I can allow to be in me now because they're just aspects of me. They're not my identity. They're just places my human experience can take me, like all of us. But then, unexpected to me, I all of a sudden had all this room for when my wife would be in bad moods and angry and irritable. It used to like ignite me. She'd come in and she'd be short. I'd be going, what are you doing being short with me? I didn't do anything to deserve you being short. And I get angry and short with her for being short with me, which was very mature. But all of a sudden now, once I had been doing self-compassion practice for a few years, she could be in a space and I would just see it as a space. I would just immediately understand, oh, she's dysregulated. It wouldn't hit me personally. It wouldn't feel like it's anything to do with she's disrespecting me or mistreating me. I could see it totally in terms of she's just not regulated in that moment. She's upset. She's anxious. She's angry. She's feeling down. So it gives us much more heart for ourselves. But counterintuitively, self-compassion gives us much more room to love those we're with and love those we come in contact with, even if strangers, because we can identify stuff that used to just separate us into other. There's now this wider spread of us because we all feel despair, happy, excited, shy, ashamed, doubtful, certain, passionate, despairing, right?
So I want to now talk to the group of listeners who've been listening who might not be apprehensive about this holiday and might actually be looking forward to it to whatever degree. And I want to talk to them about how they might use this time to deepen their capacity for love and their connection. And I've been doing this work with you for a little while, Jeffrey. I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I think it's related to two things. One is got to be the quality of chocolate you buy for your loved one, and the other's got to be the number and quality of red roses you buy. So I'm guessing if you get those two things nailed, you've done it. You've passed Valentine's Day.
You're saying that for me or for you?
For all of us.
Well,
for all
okay.
of us. Yes.
So let me just point out a few things. That's technically a stereotypical male response to a.
Sure.
So just for our listeners' audience, that's you're doing the male view on that, okay? And it really depends on what each of us wants for Valentine's Day and what our partner does. My partner really appreciates Valentine's Day. She appreciates our anniversary. She appreciates days of celebrating our connection. And because of that, it means a lot to me. But I think that it's also an invitation for us to really address, those of us who are in relationships, what's our relationship to love? And is there something we want to grow in ourselves, right? So number one of the things I think that absolutely can deepen anyone's relationship with their beloved, with their partner, with their special person, is to do self-compassion practice. Because it is a gift to you. It is mending something that you didn't know is broken, because it's pretty much broken in all of us. None of us were taught from birth how to offer, cultivate, or feel okay with self-compassion. So doing that, and then just seeing the results for yourself in terms of a lessening of struggle, a lessening of hard-heartedness in your life. But also, it really opens your capacity for love and acceptance of where your partner is at times. Now, that does not mean you should tolerate or be happy with abuse, horrible, violent behavior, anything like that. No, but your partner being in a mood, your partner being upset about something, your partner being depressed or being angry, you'll be able to see it much from a heartful place, which is where we can love and connect with. That's from regulation. Versus in a slightly activated place of, no, I don't like that. That's not good. Ugh, that pushes me away. We get very critical of our partners. And it's usually, if we look closely at it, what we're pushing other people away from is often what we're already trying to stifle in ourselves. Anything that we hate in somebody else is something we hate in ourselves. Right? So like when I was younger, I hated people who needed attention, because in my family, I learned that you had to put the need for attention far behind you and away. Otherwise, it was very selfish. So I would look at other people who wanted attention as selfish. But it was really only because I was denying myself my own need for attention. Once I realized you could want attention in a healthy way and not have to be the center of attention all the time, that felt like less of a hardcore, I'm shameful if I want attention, like how it felt as a child. I didn't have to hate other people who wanted attention. So whatever we react to in our partner, whatever we react to, is most likely a reflection of something that's not fully accepted in us, unless, I want to say this again, unless it's abuse or very, very disrespectful behavior, right? But interrupting you, or forgetting something, or being snappish, or being minimizing of something. Now, again, if they're doing it all the time, it may mean that you guys aren't compatible. But a lot of the times, couples go through this disattunement, this moment of disconnection. We all do this. And healthy couples find their way back into connection, sometimes in a matter of moments, sometimes in a matter of days or weeks, depending upon how upsetting the breach was. So part of this message about deepening our capacity for intimacy and connection with our own body's nervous system, with what's happening in this moment, and to be able to turn towards welcoming our experience, whatever you're feeling in the moment, whether you're angry, whether you're sad, whether you're tired. Just noticing, not resisting it, not judging it and trying to push it away, but just allowing it to be here, welcoming it if you can, changes your relationship with experiences. It allows you to have them. Otherwise, we usually feel that experiences are problems to be fixed. Oh, so if this is something that's irritating me, then we have to fix this. And the way to fix this is I got to get her or him to stop saying this to me, and then it'll be fixed.
As I'm sort of looking at our time here, I think it would be a missed opportunity to also not talk about individuals who feel a lot of pressure right now to have an intimate relationship or a certain type of relationship. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on, does it have to be just a deep, intimate relationship that we can explore at this time?
No. I mean, the fact is we can, all of us can explore a deep and intimate relationship with ourselves, right? And for some people, they may not be ready or desiring or feel safe enough to want certain types of deeper or more intimate connection. And that's fine, right? I mean, that's fine. Some people live a celibate life by choice. Some people live lives where they're very structured and they have friends, but only in groups. I mean, there's no right or wrong way. So if there's a message of love, it should be that it's for everyone. And truthfully, right? From my years of working with people and from understanding how we are wired for well-being, one of the underlying pieces of this is knowing that actually our wiring, if we know how to work with it, we have this capacity for healing and for well-being and for love. Actually being able to offer love in a way that is generous, flowing, and transformative to others without clinging to and expecting something back. So we have deep, deep resources most of us never tap into. We don't even know the treasure is buried in our own house. We think we have to go looking for it somewhere else.
Well, I want to thank you, Jeffrey, for taking the time here with us today to unpack this and to help us see these many roads that are possible to us. And I hope this was helpful to our listeners. And, one of the things we do here, friends, and we haven't done it for a few episodes because we're playing with the format a little bit and just seeing what resonates more and more. But one of the things we do here is answer your questions. And we've got a voicemail that we invite you to call in and put your question in. Anyway, I'm getting there, Jeffrey. Maybe you can tell individuals how they can contact us and how they can submit their questions and where they can learn a little bit more about your work and what's going on.
Sure. So if you'd like to leave us a voicemail of your question, feel free to call 866-357-5156. If for some reason you're calling from an international number and it doesn't connect with the 866 area code, feel free to create an audio recording and send it in an email. And if you can't do the audio recording, just type a question in an email and send the email to hello@drjeffreyrutstein.com. And if you'd like a free gift, I have one on my website. And currently, it's giving access to also a deeper understanding of the nervous system and some practices to do when you find yourself in certain states of dysregulation. And you can find it at drjeffreyrutstein.com/links, LINKS. That'll take you to a page where you'll see the free gift. And as always, Steve, thank you for being here with me and for going on these explorations. I always find it both interesting and heartwarming.
Yeah, I agree. And I share your enjoyment of the process, and thank everybody for listening. And do definitely want to invite people to go check out that free gift. And it was really fun to record. And I think it gives a great understanding of what's going on and very helpful for people. So I hope you go check that out. So thanks, everybody. Jeffrey, thank you. And I'll see you next week.
Sounds great. Remember, this podcast is for informational purposes only and isn't a substitute for professional mental or physical health care. If you're struggling, please reach out to a qualified healthcare practitioner. Thank you so much for being with us. Until next time, bye for now.